Well, good evening again, and welcome back to this evening of Q&A, and also in a short while I shall be showing you the I can't call it entries from the Triptych because it's not a competition. It was, well, I'll explain that in a minute. So let's just have a look who's with us. Everybody's back again. I think we've inherited Neil. Welcome, Neil. Was he with us this first part of the evening, Neil, or was you skiving? Just let us know. Who else is coming? I can't remember welcoming. Oh, I did welcome Vera. I didn't welcome Jill earlier, Jill Pardo. So welcome, Jill. Welcome everybody else, and pleased to see you all back. I hope that Keith's with us. You can watch the first part again, Keith, of course. Just go to the YouTube channel where you are now, and you'll be able to watch it at your leisure. Just sorry, I'm smiling to myself now. Just be a bit careful. It's a bit of a roller coaster. Thank you for the comments thanking me for this first half. What I was going to say was, I hope that it wasn't too much too quick. I hope you've been able to pick up some little tips and tricks from all of that. And I appreciate that in some cases it might not have registered there and then, but don't forget, as I've just said to Keith, don't forget that you can look at it at your leisure, you can pause it, you can stop, etc, etc. Listen, of course, to my dulcet tones once again. Right, we are up to 15. We're just about up to numbers, so I will make a start. So welcome back. Now, unfortunately, this question came in later last night, so I didn't have time to get it incorporated with the slideshow. But I'm going to read out the question and try and split it down a little bit. So the question is, hi Graham, can I ask about camera sensors? What are the pros and cons of the different sensors in different cameras? Is full frame always best? Can Micro Four Thirds and APS-C compete against them? Are some better than others in different genres? Sports, wildlife, night, macro, or is it just down to the maker's use of the technology? Do any other features help with how the sensor works, stabilization, etc.? Now, there's a lot in there, so I'm just going to break it down and do a bit at a time, and hopefully help to answer that. The questions. So, can I ask about camera sensors? Yep, ask about anything. What are the pros and cons of the different sensors? Well, if I was to speak about sensors for the next couple of days, that's how much difference there is in sensors. Now, if we take the different formats, then of course there's different sizes of sensors, as we've got in the question here. We've got APC, APS, Micro Four Thirds, and all this sort of thing. Now, let's just take the three. We'll not go into too many. So you've got full frame. Full frame sensors is equal to the size of the old piece of negative that you got back when you sent away, and I'm assuming that all of you sent away photographs in the past, and you got back your little strip of negatives. Now that little strip of negatives, that negative image was 35mm across by, and I've forgotten the other one, 27, something like that. I can't remember what it was, 23, whatever it might have been. But whatever size it was, that sensor is the same size as the old piece of film that you used to take the image on. Then you go to an APS crop filter, and different camera manufacturers have different crop factors. So for instance, the two I used earlier in the first half was Canon is a 1.6 crop and Nikon is a 1.5 crop. So they're smaller than the equivalent full frame. So then we go to Micro Four Thirds. Well, I do know why it's called Micro Four Thirds, but Micro Four Thirds is half the size, so it's a 2 times crop. So all of a sudden we've gone from a full frame camera to a sensor that's half the size. We then go, and I'm just looking at this all again in my head, we then go to say the differences between those sensors. Let's just take initially a full frame sensor. The answer to the question is, if we just look at full frame sensors, yes, there is a difference. If you buy a lesser complicated sensor, it's all made up with millions of dots that take your image. So the way the sensor is made is different. So yes, there is a difference between the sensors of the same size. Now if you say to yourself, well, I want to buy a Canon 1DX Mark III, and it's that particular camera is now £6,000, just for a round figure, £6,000. So you say, oh wow, and then you say, well, I can buy a Sony full frame camera for £2,500. But it's not as simple as that, because you're buying a different, as well as the size of the sensor, you're buying a different quality sensor. So it depends upon the price you pay as to what you're going to get in the sensor. You then go down to the APS or the Micro Four Thirds, and because you're reducing the size of the sensor, you are to a certain extent reducing the ability for it to gather light. So consequently, if you go to a Micro Four Thirds and you use that Micro Four Thirds, let's just say my camera, my Olympus M1X, top of the range, absolutely top of the range, most expensive Olympus camera that you can get, then I put it at the side of, and I'm going to use Bob as an example, Bob's Canon 1DX Mark II. I've got a Canon 1DX Mark II as well, but let's use Bob as an example. His sensor is built to a totally different standard than what my sensor on the Olympus M1X is, because of what you pay and what they can cram into that. But then you have to look at the benefits of what you want the camera for. So if you want the camera to give you absolutely top hole, brilliant raw files, and the Canon camera is say 20 meg files and the Olympus is 24, that's the only difference in megapixel size. but the quality and the build of the sensor is such that I have taken pictures with my, and Bob will back me up on this one, with the Canon camera, the 1DX, and you can go up to 50,000 ISO and still get an acceptable picture. The Olympus that I have doesn't go up to 50,000 ISO. The Canon camera goes up to 100 and I can't remember what, 110, 120,000 ISO. And you're still only getting the same amount of noise on that image as you are with, say, an Olympus at 12,000 ISO. So yes, there's a big difference with the sensors, full frame against crop sensors against micro four thirds. But we then have to say, what do we want from the camera? So you say to yourself, I'm going to be a daytime photographer. So I'm a fair weather daytime photographer. So you don't need to spend £6,000 on a Mark III Canon, because the micro four thirds, the crop sensors will suffice. Also, you have to take into consideration the feel of the camera in your hand. I mean, I've got big hands, being male and tall and big bloke, etc. So I need a grip that I can get my fingers round and things fall into the right place. So you've got to take into consideration the camera and what you want to do with it. Is it comfy? If I'm a fair day photographer and I'm not going to necessarily use it in any dark places, then go all day long for a micro four thirds, Panasonic, Olympus. You know, it doesn't matter what you get, you're going to get a good camera for your money. You pays your money and you takes your choice. Let me just read the next bit of the Canon the third complete against them. Are some better than others in different genres? Yes, let's talk about what they can do. If we look at things like the Canon against the lesser models of full frame cameras, the new mirrorless, let's just take a Sony, the Panasonic S1s, and these other types of full frame cameras that sell for about $3,500 body only, then the Canon will give you far better quality at a frame rate of, and I forget what the Mark III is now. I know the old Mark II was, if I remember rightly, 18 frames a second. And now the lesser models, the Sonys, the Fujis, the etc., about $2,500 to $3,500. They are some of them, and the Canon new mirrorless cameras are a good example, because some of them are only 5 frames a second. So you lose out on what the camera will do, as well as how good a quality it will do it. So for sports photography, if I'd not sold the business and I was still in the sports side of Lynx Photo, then I would definitely be owning a 1D Mark III now, Canon. There is no doubt about it. There's nothing for me better on the market than that particular camera for that job. Now, I got the Olympus because I'm not now looking for the detail and the quality that I want from the Canon. So to go on to the next part, are some different for different things? Yes, they are. And if you take the Canon 1DX and what the Canon 1DX will give you as features, it doesn't. there isn't a lot of features. It's a professional camera for a professional job. Now, if you want to do all of these other things that Olympus, Panasonic, Fuji, Sony do, then you make your choice based upon what you want the camera for. If we look at things like, if we look at things like macro photography, then we've got to not look at cameras specifically. We've got to start looking at lenses and the quality of the build of the lens that goes with the quality, whoops, hit the microphone, the quality of the camera and lens combined, focusing distances and all this sort of thing. So there's a tremendous amount to look at in all of that. Technology in, say, the Olympus, the Panasonic, I can speak about those two because I've had the Panasonic, I've got the Olympus. I got the Olympus because I wanted the features on the Olympus that I could use, and the features that I can use in that camera is far in exceeding what the Canon 1DX will have and some of the top range Nikons. So I'm looking at the features that it's got, and that's why I paid my money and made my choice. So it cost me £4,000 less, so I had money to buy, well, I say buy lenses. I've only got 2 lenses for the Olympus, well, 3 with a macro lens, sorry. So yes, there is a tremendous amount of difference. When we get down to the nitty-gritty of the second part, or the third or fourth part of this question, do the other features help with how the sensor works, stabilization, etc.? And I'm going to put my phone down now because that's read to the bottom. Absolutely. I think that the people who have got the Olympus cameras will put their hand up from whether they're sat in the front seats or the back seats, and they will say, if you want a camera and you're a fair weather user, you need to get one of these cameras that has IBS in them, in-body stabilization, and the top of the range Mark III Olympus, the top of the range Panasonics, they've all got inbuilt stabilization in the lens as well. Now the two will work together. So consequently, I picked the camera up with my 300 lens on, which on the Olympus is a 600 lens, with a 1.4 converter on, which makes it 840mm lens. And I pick it up, and the picture, I might as well be doing that before I press the shutter. And when I press the shutter, everything just stands still. It is like, it's like a rifle shooter going from standing up with his rifle to laying on the ground with the legs down on a tripod type effect and getting that stillness. It actually stands, everything stands still. You just cannot believe, until you've pointed that camera, you need, when people come for the training here, I get them to point the camera at something outside to explain image stabilization. I get them to point their camera at something outside, and they press the shutter and they've got 1 or 2 stops of stabilization. That's what Canon and some of the other cameras have got. Some of the newer cameras, by all means, don't get me wrong, Canon cameras do have these new R6s, R5s, etc. They've got 4 stops of stabilization. But my top of the range Olympus with the right lenses has 7.5 stops of image stabilization. You press that half a shutter and everything stands still. And instead of shooting, if you're taking a picture of something, well, when it's relatively dark, when I say dark, I don't mean dark as it is outside now, I mean low light, and you're wavering on having to go up to, I don't know, 4000 ISO to get the picture. On these modern cameras, the Panasonics, Olympus, blah blah blah, etc., etc., you don't. You just go back down to say 1000 ISO or even 500 ISO, and you hand hold the camera at half a second, and your picture is as sharp as anything. Unfortunately, you can't do that on such like as the Canon 1DX, etc. The stabilization isn't there because the camera is being used totally and utterly for a different thing. Could go on about this for ages, but we're at past, and I hope that's answered the question to a certain extent. If you want to get in touch with me and have a further conversation, then by all means do. I'm just looking at one or two of the notes. Olympus great, Jill put, plus not too shabby in dark places like nocturnal corridors. Okay, I love the Sony for low light work. They are doing official, yeah. Right, so on we go. So I've waffled on about that enough, but yes, there is a vast difference in what you pay to what you get to what you want from the camera. So as I say, if you ever want any advice, just get in touch and we'll go through it, but do expect it to take a little while. So thanks for that, Graham H. Right, what we're going to do now is have a look at these Triptych images. I'm going to get rid of that, bring that up, and what I'm going to show you is straight through them all for a start. I'm going to get my list of who they are because it's not a competition, so I know who they all are. So I'm just going to show you this one first. More notes in my book. So with Triptych, a Triptych is normally we would present this in the form of 3 images mounted in the normal card like we do at the club, and presented 3 images, 3 separate images up on the board for a judge to judge. What we did to try and get people into this process, what we did was to ask you to produce an image which had 3 images as you're looking at, all in one and placed onto one canvas. So we call this white bit at the background the canvas. Then we prepare 3 images, and the 3 images have to relate to each other in some way. So in this first long, along the Scottish coastline, which is from Jill, she's given 3 different things that go with the coastline. So that's the process, and that's what everybody was asked to do. So I'm just going to flick through them for you and then go backwards. Baubles, another one from Jill. I did one. Birds. I was going to call it something else, but I won't even tell you what I was going to call it. Dandelion Seedhead, Graham Halliday. Faces, Michael Hughes. How to take a cap off, Jim. Another one from me, insects. Leaves, from Doreen. Nocturne Hall, from Jill. Parrots, from Dane. RGB, Graham Halliday. Red roses within the city walls. I knew that wasn't right when I read it. Red roofs within the city walls. Dane. Red, white and blue. Jim. Stages in the life of a puss moth caterpillar. Doreen. The apartments. Michael Hughes. The engraver, the artist, the machinist, Michael Hughes. 3 seasons, Doreen. We got a few entries of tulip in. So they've gone tulip 1, Dane. Tulip 2, Grahame H. Tulips, Sandra Dodsworth. Wing Walkers, Jim. So let's just go back on those so that we can get back, and I'm not going to judge them, but I'm just going to give you a few pointers to hopefully change them accordingly. So let me just change something on my list so that I do it this time. Right, this first one from Jill, along the Scottish coastline. Nice image, nice bright images, all looks nice. I like the way that we've got the two beach orientated, in other words the sand orientated items, the stone and the sand either side, and then we've put the building in the middle. Now possibly Jill knows what I'm about to say. The image here in the middle, we've unfortunately just clipped the top of the building. We had, and I'm not sure whether the original image has that top of the building in, but it needs just to be brought down a bit. This bottom doesn't matter. I've just seen your comment, Neil, and they are absolutely cracking images, aren't they? Every one of them. So yes. So yeah, going back to this image, that's just the one that I feel is a little bit weak on this one. Love the old tree that's been washed up. Everything else, they're lovely bright images. Possibly for me, the borders are maybe just a little bit heavy. Possibly everybody will make their own mind up, and sometimes it's not a difference, it's only an opinion that I'm making at this precise moment in time. I don't know whether I would have had this inner line in there. I would have brought the writing down so the G went below so that it looked like the writing was on the line. But that's just my opinion. Baubles, Jill again. Yep, we've got the 3 baubles either side and the one in the middle. I love the way that we can see through this centre one. Absolutely cracking, that is. I know we can see through these as well. I do think, I don't know, because I've not judged an official panels competition outside of the club, but I would say that this one by a judge may be knocked down a bit, for the simple reason that we've got a flipped image on the side. Now this one and this one look relatively or very slightly different, but this one's higher in the image because of the space here. We've cloned out a few flowers or two on the sides, but when we look very, very closely at the colours in the image and everything in the image now, Jill's possibly sat there saying, no, they're not, they're different images. Go away, Graham. But to me, they do look similar. That flower head there is in exactly the same position there. The stem going there is there. So I'm thinking that the judge would have wanted 3 different images. Now there is 1 or 2 little things that's out of the image. You see that black bit there is there, and the black bit behind that stem is there and there, but then these little bits have been cloned out. So I'll leave you all to make your own decisions. But that's just me as I'm looking at it as a oh I've just read Jill's comment there, so yeah, picked up the wrong piece of paper. So that's baubles, but still a very nice image. There's mine. I just like it. It's it represents 3 birds of the same type. These 3, blue tit, great tit and colt it. So, and I thought I'd do something different with putting a different background in. And this little white border to help it. All nice sharp images, 2 facing in, 1 facing up in a portrait mode. That's it. What do I think's wrong with it? I suppose if I was being very extremely critical, I've got this bird higher than this one, and maybe I should have brought it down so the head was at the same height straight along there. So that's being very critical. Why didn't I do it? I don't know. I've just thought about that. The next one is dandelion seed heads. So that's one of Grahame Halliday's. Great image, tells a story. Full new dandelion head. Here we go. They're beginning to blow away. And here we are, just one left before it goes. Lovely presented, lovely and sharp. Great image. What can you say about this one? This one, faces. This is Michael Hughes. Stunning images. Well presented. I can't really see anything. If I'm going to be extremely picky, if I was looking at this in a salon or anything like that, then I think the chin is a bit close here and the top of those goggles are a bit close there. Now I can appreciate that the overall size of the head, including the helmet hat, is the same size as this one, but I do feel that this one is just letting it down just with a bit close at the bottom there. A little bit tight on the top there. Doesn't matter about chopping some off like this, but to me I would just have liked to have seen a little bit more. But after saying that, absolutely stunning images. Really fun one here, how to take a cap off. Yep, we've got the starts halfway through and we've won, and the presentation's good. We've got this border around. As I say, I'm not sure what a higher ranking judge than myself would say about these extra little borders on the outsides, but nevertheless this one has not only got the slight border on here, it's got the bevel on the picture as well, which you can just see on the edge. Nicely the same size roughly, all of them, so it works well, and of course everyone's sharp. Another one of mine, insects. Not say anything about that. I just thought I'd put a couple of flies on either side with some caterpillars in the middle to be different. So Doreen's leaves. Lovely lighting on these leaves, possibly been set up, but that doesn't matter, does it? I'm just only one thing that I've got on these, and that's this leaf stroke stem, whatever it may be here, is not a leaf in itself. This one could possibly have done with a little bit of lighting on in here, but nevertheless lovely image, well presented. Doesn't need a border around this one because the black against the white sets it off anyway. Yep, that's that one. Nocturne Hall, that's Jill's. The one thing that jumps out at me straight away, love the 3 images, nothing wrong with the 3 images. I think what you should have done though, Jill, is put the house in the middle, because then we've got 2 derelict rooms at either side with the house in the middle. I know that these 2 possibly go together more so than that, and you'd be splitting them, but I think the balance would have been better. And you've just chopped the tops of the chimney pots off there. But once again, lovely image, you know, nothing wrong. Parrots, Danes, I believe, I don't know, but I believe that this is Dane's first go at doing a triptych, and from a first go I think it's very, very good. We've got the balance between all of the birds. The only thing I would say, Dane, is split these 2 that are very similar up and put this one eye and all of the detail one in the middle. And then, granted, that one would be looking out of the picture, but if you're going to be if I'm going to be very picky, why not just flip that one and make it look in? I know you might sit there and say, well, that's not how I took it. But yeah, it's, you know, it works, and nobody knows, so do it. So maybe a little bit of separation between the pictures, and make sure you get your pictures the same size. So it's just a little bit difference in size at the top there. But nevertheless, once again, great image. RGB, Grahame H. We've got the red, green and blue, the 3 prime colours in the colour scheme. They make up every colour total. Just see that Sue's just said, thanks Grahame, great evening. She's possibly going now. Cheers Sue, catch you later. I can see that what's happening as well. We've got 5 bits of paper, 3, 1. So we've got the fall down to the 5 down to the 1. So that works really well as well. So the next one is red roofs within the city walls. Another one from Dane. Chosen to put them quite close together again. As I say, for a proper triptych, you'd want a little bit of separation, Dane. So next time, just think about that, because then the images don't mingle into each other. And if you're into putting a little border on, possibly a little black border around them to hold the picture together. As you can see here, the roofs are blending in together. Because you've got the rooftops there and the one on the right, put this wall in the middle and move this one to the outside. So, but otherwise, good pictures. A little bit of clarity on these images would make these rooftops stand out a little bit better. Red, white and blue, Jim. Yeah, cracking images. Jim's gone to town on the bevel and the border again. So it all fits nicely. We've nearly got a bit of clipping on the bottom there on the red, but nevertheless, very good examples, very, very sharp, very good. Well done, Jim. Doreen, stages in the life of a puss moth caterpillar. Yep, here we go. Caterpillar. I don't know the process. Egg, caterpillar, moth. But we've got them all working very, very well. Very shallow depth of field. But what's in focus is what needs to be in focus. So we've got no borders around this one. And I think it might have been better with just a little faint line. Some people would agree with me, some wouldn't. But from the actual example, excellent. Really, really good. Michael Hughes, the apartments. Yep, excellent image. You've got something to look at in every little bit. We've got the tables, the chairs, red chairs, blue chairs, Union flag, pots. We've got some, even do a bike. We've got something there all the way through. Now there is a little flaw with this one, Michael. We've got the white border. We've got the white border. We've got a black border. And I think you would be knocked for that one on there. The gap between this one is less than it is on this one. So just remember to keep your eye on what you've done on one to the other, and to try and keep your borders the same thickness. Maybe you could do your centre one a bit thicker than the outside ones, but at least you do need them to be equal on both sides. So that one wanted a white border. So, but I love this one. That's great. Also love this one. The engraver, the artist, the machinist, Michael Hughes. What can I say about it? What can I say about it? Sorry, Michael. I'm ever so sorry, but we've just got one not quite the same size. So do just look at that and make sure, get your grid and make sure that they all snap to the grid. But the images, absolutely stunning. You know, you couldn't get better. Great, brilliant. 3 seasons, Doreen. Yeah, we've got the 3 seasons here. These two are during the growing and late period. So we've got the late. are they the right way round? Would we put them as our brain knows them to be? Would we put the green growing stage first, then the dying off stage in the middle, and then the icy stage at the end? You know, that may get the seasons going in the right order. That's just me. I'm only giving comment. I'm not judging them as such. But if anything, if I've got to be cruel to the author, this one you could have done with zooming in a little bit, just to get it the same size as this. A way to do that is when you're producing the image, get this image, drop it on top of that image, and then go up here, double click on the layer, and then take the capacity down, the layer capacity down to probably say 25-30%, and you'll see this image underneath so that you can make it the same size. So just a way of doing it. Good image. I love the idea. This one, Tulip 1, Dane. Dane's done a once again, great colours, absolutely lovely in the level across. We've got the two that match up either side, but once again it is, by looks of it, a flipped image, so the judge would look upon that. We want 3 images really to tell a story, so just be careful with that. But nevertheless, colours, sharpness, everything else fine. Works really well. Got them nicely the same size, but once again I think just leave a little bit of separation between them and just put that black line around the outside, that stroke. Tulip 2, Grahame H. Telling a story again. We've got this nice fresh tulip. We've got it when it's open and just blowing a little bit, and then we've got it when it's dying away. So works really, really well. The only thing I would say, GH, is that for some reason you've got a little bit greater depth of field in this last image, so just be careful on that to try and get it the same. I must admit I'm into drop shadows, so I like your little drop shadow that you've put. That gives depth to the image, so I like that. Well done. Tulips, Diva. We've got the 3 tulips. Once again, that process of bud, opening, open. So that works really, really well. And so we've got them all the same size by the looks of it. Once again, maybe if you have another good go at it, put a little border, a little stroke around the images when you put them onto your canvas. So, and the last one, wing walkers. Wing walkers, yep, we can see the wing walkers up here, the crossover, and the 2 flying in and the 2 flying in. Yep, these are different to these, but I'm not bothered. The process is right and it works really well. So well done to everybody there. Now I've just put them in order of how I like them. So I'm going to give you, I've only split, I don't know, 10 of them I think I picked out in the end into thirds. So these 4 images I've put into 3rd place. So Jill's Nocturne Hall, love it, love the brightness in all of these, but as I say, that one in the middle. This one was just let down. I think the sequence is wrong personally. We've got spring, then we go to that one, then we go back to that one, so just think of that. But that one's Doreen's. The tulips, Grahame H's, just purely on the pattern in the background of the depth of field that you've got in the image, not as strong as some of the others. And then Jim's wing walkers, great image, works well, lovely and sharp, well caught for being up there in the air, etc. So well done to those people for 3rd places. As I say, there's no exact 3rd places, 2nd places, it's just my preferences. So second place is red, white and blue, I believe was Jim's. So well done, Jim. Love the sharpness, all works well, nicely put together. That's the first one. The second one, the apartments, yeah, as I say, love this, really do love this. It for me it works really well. It's good, but this one does just let it down because of it not having the border on it, Michael. So sorry about that, but absolutely love the image. Then this one, once again, absolutely love the image, but I think if you was in a serious competition, the judge would just notice the difference in size here, so would just knock you back for that. Hence the reason it's in with the 2s and not the 1s right up there in the first place. So we come up with my selection of firsts, as you say. And here's the first. This is Grahame H's. And I love the story it tells. I love your background, the grey. It just complements. You're looking now at this thing about the 18% grey, and that is roughly about 18% grey, which in an image works as a background really well, again, especially against this black and white. So really well done on that one. Really well done. The next one is Michael's faces. Love this. Absolutely brilliant pictures, Michael. Can't praise you enough on the images. Love the way that you've put them together, etc. So well done on that one. Couldn't see anything wrong with your borders on this one. So well done on that one. And the Doreen's leaves. So that one's the other first one out of what I chose. So right, so if I was having to pick a first out of all of these three here, I've got to say it's got to be GH's. Well done, Grahame. I can't particularly see a fault. If I go to the other two, unfortunately, as I said earlier, I'm just in my mind a little concerned about the space between the chin. I appreciate it's not chopped there, but against the others I just feel that lets it down just that tad against the other. And this one, this stem, just that bit there that's letting this one down. So well done to GH. You're not a winner, but you are. I think out of all of these I've just done, out of what I've just shown, this one would have been my one at the top there. And I think a lot of effort's been put into it. You've thought about a story, you've told that story with the image, and that's what needs to happen in a triptych. Or in let's take it away from now being a digital on a screen and make it into a panel. So that's 3 separate images. If you had these 3 separate images on a display board mounted in card, then that's what you would be seeing, exactly that, but in mounts. So that's what would be in a panels competition. But absolutely brilliantly well done. And I'm looking at the time and I'm 1 minute late again. Oh, never mind. So well done to GH, well done to Michael, to Doreen, to everybody else who's in the gym, and everybody else who's I'm trying to think of. Let me just have a quick look. That was Jim, that was Michael's, and that was Jim's and Graham's and Doreen's and Jill. So excellent images, really well done, especially well done to those people such as Dane for their first try at a triptych, and we'll have another go at this next year, and just as a fun competition, and we'll see how it all goes. So I hope you've all enjoyed the evening. I hope the information was of some use, and as I've said to you, if you think of any questions within those questions and answers that I gave you earlier, drop me a line and I explain in a little bit more detail. For the person who asked about the cycling, sorry I've not sent it in a written form, but I've been a bit busy. If you could drop back onto here and have a look, you'll catch it again. Thank you all for your kind comments that you've been putting up just now. Good evening to you all, or I should say good night to you all, and we'll see you all again next week. Can't think what it is next week, but I'm sure that whatever it is, we'll all enjoy it. So I shall say good night for now, all the best, take care, and we'll see you next Thursday. Bye for now.